On the Recyard, Women's Prison Podcast, where we are live on the Recyard every Wednesday night. Hey, everybody. It is Wednesday night, and we are on the Recyard Women's Prison Podcast. I'm Marci Marie.
I'm Toonchi.
Toonchi, I hope my connection is okay.
I mean, you're coming through just fine to me, and guess what? Boy, your voice is back. Your voice is back.
My voice is back, and I spoke today, and I have been trying to save my voice for this event in Houston today, and it's starting to feel a little bit crummy, but it made it for my. I got to be I got to give the keynote speech for Partners for Justice. And so I'm really excited. Did you freeze, or you're?
No, I was thinking. I was very. I was thinking. I wanted to tell you. Well, tonight you need to drink some hot tea and honey. I know when I told you that last time when we were in Chicago, you said, "What I need for you to do is to stop telling me what to do."
I don't remember saying that.
Oh, honey, you did. And I said, okay. Yeah, we were getting our breakfast. I said, oh, okay. Well, I think you should use some hot tea and honey. That's what Mimi did. Mariah Carey did. That to soothe hers, she drinks hot tea and honey.
Well, Mariah would know about that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a trustworthy source for how to take care of a voice.
Yeah.
Chicago was hard. We were around a lot of people all the time, and I could not speak a word. And then I'm reading don't whisper, because whispering actually damages more than talking.
Wow.
And so I was mad.
Boy, I'm gonna tell y'all something. If you want a moment of real, it's not many people in my life that I get nervous around when they're obviously upset, and Marci's one of them. Marci makes my nerves so bad when she's upset. I'm like, oh boy, because anything goes. You could have punched me right in my face and you wouldn't have cared because you were that mad and frustrated.
A little karate chop to the throat never hurt anybody.
Well, it's not like that hasn't happened more than once. Not so sure I deserved every single one of them, though.
I'm quite sure you did, Toonch. I'm quite sure you did. We have a good show tonight.
Yes.
And we're talking about the prison intake process and how that looks. What does it look like your first day in prison and getting used to prison? You know why I wanted to talk about this?
Why?
There's a guy that I follow on TikTok, and he has done time in Texas, and his platform is, he's an anime guy. He talks about anime. But I came across him talking about prisons, and of course I followed him. And then he just did this little randomly he'll throw in some prison content. And so he threw it in, and it was a little skit about his going to UCC, his first day, arriving at a prison. And I thought, ooh, that UCC visit, that's a good one. So I want to compare. I'm going to play his little video later, and we'll compare the men's experience to the women's experience. They're different quite a bit.
Maybe. I don't know. My first one was pretty bad, Marci. It was pretty bad.
Well, we see all of you coming in, and we're excited to have you. This is our favorite night of the week. So we see you, Carrie and Mama Sean, Aunt Angie, AIC's advocate, who always reminds me to remind you to like and heart and all that good stuff. Share the live. If you're listening wherever you hear your favorite podcasts, please leave us a review. And we see our very good friend, Dr. Purdom. Carly is watching from Facebook, and we're so glad because she's a busy lady, so she doesn't always get to join us on the live. We see Laura. Thank you for calling your followers on your platform, Laura. We appreciate you so much. Haley, hi there. Yeah, what is UCC? We're going to get into it.
All right, where's your little button?
Do you want this button? Let's do a weekly recap. It's just playing like crud because my internet connection in this hotel.
Well, I gotta tell you, it feels very quiet this evening. You don't have kids and grandmother and Brittany and the dogs, and then I pick a background that makes it look like I'm the last one at the office, and so it just feels very quiet this evening.
It is quiet. I'm in this room, and I have to admit, it's not always a bad place to be in a hotel by yourself hanging out when you have such a busy home life. And I did hear from Brittany. And for those of you that don't know, we have a toddler in the house. We have our nephews that are staying with us, and uh, it's never quiet.
Never.
Never
I'm
quiet.
never on the phone with you or on a video with you where it's quiet. It's so quiet. Taylor's over there asleep in her little princess bed. It's just a very quiet evening.
Last night, you called, and we were on the phone, and I was giving the baby a bath and doing this, and you said, you have to do this every night. Yes,
Every night.
every night. It's no break. So how was your week, Toonch?
Well, let's see. It was pretty good. Had some time at the Texas After Violence Project office, our little sanctuary time, which I cleaned our shared space. It just has this great, nice, peaceful vibe. And a couple of folks came by and we had snacks and relaxed and chilled out. And then this weekend, I went to an event. It was called archiving activism. So how to archive, right? Like how to collect oral histories and other, maybe it's tangible things that you want to keep for your community. How do you do that? How do you keep it safe? How do you use that? It was great. I always tell Lori, man, I sign up for stuff and then I'm like, oh, I don't feel like going. I'm tired. And I always know that's the sign that I need to go because I meet really wonderful people and I had such a great time. And then Sunday, I just, when we were on the inside and, you needed to relax and you just kind of needed to be to yourself, but you put your radio on and you just scrubbed your cubicle,
Yeah,
right? You pulled everything out of your box. You just cleaned.
yeah.
I love a good Sunday to put on Fatal Attraction, which y'all, it's one of my favorite movies. Don't ask why. I want it to end differently. And I really root for Glenn Close's character. She was just so sad. And then I just scrubbed while the cat sat here on this bed and watched me clean all her dishes. And so that was it. And it was kind of relaxing. So it was nice being in town.
Yeah, I saw you posting about your cleaning day and how Taylor was just, uh,
Supervising. That's all she
yeah,
was doing.
yeah. Eric says you should do movie nights again. He's
Oh,
watching on Facebook.
me and Eric one time set up on TikTok Live and we watched Eric, I don't remember what it was. Was it Scream or it was Nightmare on Elm Street, I think. And I had like 3 people on my TikTok Live and we just set up all night watching horror movies. So
He also says he was shocked at the video you posted, and I'm thinking it's you, although our videos shock a lot of folks. If you want to be good and shocked throughout the week and not just on podcast night about the things happening inside of Texas prisons, make sure you're following us both on our social media platforms. But let's talk about that video very quickly.
Oh, yeah. Me and Diane were meeting today doing our work, and we saw, first of all, they posted a Braille video, which that could be a whole other episode. I admire and respect the women that learned how to do Braille and who are doing their best to make a living at it out here. But we know that industry is slave labor inside of TDCJ. And non-industry jobs are. So anyway, we were looking at that, and I came across this video that was a retirement announcement for one of the sergeants that was on the field at Mountain View. And I was just kind of scrolling through the video, and I came across a section that had a line of the women doing hose squad, doing with their Aggies, their hose. They were in a line chopping on. We're always trying to show people, what does this really look like? And there it was. And the TDCJ staff member, I don't know if it was the warden or someone else that works on the field squad, was kind of standing there with them doing it. And they're singing all those host squad songs and chants that we do, which are often grounded in, I could hear them singing Wade in the Water, which is one of my favorite gospel songs, but it has a history related back to slavery times. And so, all these chants and songs that we sang that we didn't know what they were, but they were handed down from squad to squad. And it was to honor this man's retirement as a gift. And they were like spelling out thank you, and they're flipping it over. And I was so angry. Me and Diane got off our call, and I was so angry. I was like, full display, and it never occurred to them how problematic that was, and how exploitive it feels. I knew every single woman in that video.
Wow.
Pissed me off.
Yeah, I didn't go look at it, but just the imagery, I'm thinking about, first of all, it was for a sergeant that I think was fairly liked. I don't know. I didn't have him for a sergeant.
He was nice.
I had his daughter as a CO on Lane Murray, and she told a blatant lie about Brittany while we were locked up, and Brittany got G Ford for it. She used that old, I feel threatened.
Oh boy.
I feel threatened. Yeah. And then her dad, when everybody's like, I don't understand why she's like that, her dad's not like that. My field bosses, I worked in the field most of my 10, and they weren't nice people, but I wanted them to like me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted their favor. It made you feel important in some way.
Well, and that people would leave you alone, right? Because if you have proximity to power in there, whether you're using it for good or bad, people, they leave you alone. They don't mess with you as bad. It just was so sad to see the girls excited and happy to be filming this little video. And it's like, you don't know until you're outside of that what is happening to you. You know what I mean? Or the history of things. And I don't know, it just felt wrong. Just felt wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I do hate that. I
I'm
think
not
that
getting
it's so
invited
easy.
ever to go again. I got invited to the college graduation last year, and the warden was nice enough to let me talk and see folks, but there comes a price, Marci, and the price is, if you want to continue to have access and to come inside and see the women face to face and volunteer, you have to.
Welcome to your new home. Every time you enter your cell,
Ooh.
secure.
I don't know how to get that off.
I was like,
honey, I don't know how to get. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I was like, well, I'm done. That was it for that topic.
No, you're not done. We're still talking about that.
It See, yeah, and how it looks. You're absolutely. What is happening?
I don't know what I'm doing, honey. I don't know. There we are. This is my first day as a producer on this podcast.
We're back to episode 1.
Yes.
I'm
Well,
surprised we're
they
not like up
changed
in the camera.
Yeah, they switch things up
Oh yeah, it's
on us.
this new studio. I hate when
I
you get
didn't want
used to something, a platform, and then they switch it to something else.
Yeah, like it says, follow us on Twitter, Restream.
Don't
I
do
don't want that going across. Why is that even on there?
I don't understand. I don't even know how it got there. Well, anyway, there's always a price to pay if you want to have access to the women and the men in the inside to go volunteer and see them in person. First of all, you have to be taken off of their list. Now, those Braille women that go in a lot, that group
Mhm.
of Braille folks, those free world Braille women go in to help for free on their own dime. And most of them are doing that out of the kindness of their heart, mainly because they want to see those women.
Yeah.
Well, now they're being told you can't come back up here and help with anything until you are off every single one of these people's list. Cut them off. They can't call you. You can't be on their visitation list. And so it's like that doesn't feel very community based or thinking about the support systems that these women need. And you're asking these women to come and volunteer their time and help. It's just crazy. But at the expense too, going on the inside, you have to keep your mouth shut about stuff.
Yes.
And you, me, and the girls at Linus, we just can't do that. We just can't.
No, they don't like us.
They
They
don't
They,
like
they want us to be quiet and complacent and talk about how prison saved our life.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we got put in prison. And that's just not the fact of the matter. Now, could I have been distorted my thinking to believe it? Probably,
Sure.
But that's just not it. Prison is where I got PTSD. That's what prison did for me. I got a nice little diagnosis on top of my personality disorder.
Your personality disorder that was developed through trauma will compound that with some more trauma on top of that. Oh, and now, by the way, trust us to help you get better. It's sickening. It's gaslighting at its finest. And once you wake up from it, you can't look at the. They have done a huge job, a big effort, I believe, since we came on the scene 2 years ago. Marci, I almost called you Lori because I talked to her in my sleep. But it is this like trying to reclaim and capture this narrative that we've taken back from them. And so they're just constantly pushing out this social media, which is propaganda, especially around women, that this narrative is looking like a scrubbed up college campus at Mountain View. And no, that is not. And it's just a constant battle of controlling our narrative, Well, how was your week?
I just didn't have a voice for most of it. And then I guess Chicago and was home for a week. And then now I'm in Houston and next week, Minnesota. And the week after that, Detroit. So it's busy. It's busy. And the kids are just karate and school. And yeah, it's just busy, honey. Changing diapers and.
Oh, man. Y'all, I want you to know when I saw all the work she was doing last night, we were in a Zoom meeting trying to do some parole work stuff. And she's moving babies and she's got one over her arm and she's picking up stuff. And I said, well, you got to do this every night. I don't know, y'all. I don't have babies. I remember when my nephew was born, I asked my mom, when is he going to open his eyes? And they were like, what? I was like a kitten.
He's not. Yeah, he opened them when he was born, honey.
I didn't know. So I'm like, oh my God. So like you got to bathe that baby every day
Yeah,
and feed them
all
and
the
change
time.
them and
Feed
wash
them all
them.
the time. All the things. Hugs, stories, toys, playtime, outside, inside, wiping runny noses, all of it. Yeah, all the time.
God.
So that's why I kind of like being alone in the hotel. Don't tell my wife I said that while she's home dealing with it by herself. Um, but yeah, well, let's get into the show.
Okay, let's do it.
We're talking about, for those of you that just joined us, we're talking about what does it look like your first day in prison?
Mm.
What is that? And somebody asked earlier, somebody watching from YouTube said, what is UCC? And we're gonna get to that because that's one of the things that happens when you arrive to a new prison or to prison your first day period. You see UCC, a unit classification committee. I have these two videos. One is
Okay.
this gentleman. His TikTok handle is Alley Cat Blues, and I just really like him. He's a guy with lived experience of in the prison system and unhoused. Uh, but anyway, here now I clicked on it thinking it would just hop on. Like, oh, there it
Okay,
is.
you'll be housed in B dorm. Next, Mr. Cat. Next. Oh, hi, yes, I'm Mr. Cat. Good afternoon, Mr. Cat. How are you today? Oh, I couldn't be much better than this. Wonderful, that's wonderful to hear. Now, we're just going to ask you a few questions so that we can figure out where we're going to house you on this unit. And by the way, what are your charges? My charges? Yes, what crime did you break? What charges brought you here? I broke a meth pipe in front of the cops. You don't have like a paper that says that or something? No, I don't, but that's great. Thank you for letting me know. Now, first question. Have you ever had sex with a man? I have not. Has a man ever had sex with you? No, I don't believe so. Have you ever thought about or wanted to have sex with a man? I can't say that I have. Has a man
It goes on and on. His UCC, I messaged him and said, hey, this is like hilarious. Is it a real portrayal? And he said, yes. That they really focus on sexuality at UCC. Uh-oh. Hi.
I'm almost concerned that you're drunk tonight. I'm almost concerned that you're drunk.
I'm not. I'm not.
I don't know what's going to pop up next, y'all. I don't know. No, but I mean, it feels kind of interesting to really hear that because I mean, we've talked a lot about here about how sexuality and sex and this obsession with women's bodies and we always wonder, do men get the same thing? And at least through intake it seems like that there is a bit of a fixation on that part.
He said they asked 12 different ways
God.
trying to figure out if he was homosexual or even thought about being homosexual. And I said, this is just really fascinating because I was not asked that at ever.
You
So
weren't?
what he was portraying is like a little mimic of UCC. What is UCC? It's the Unit Classification Committee, and it's made up of three people. I think it can be made up of two, but three is what I usually saw. And it would be like a high-ranking officer, the clerk, and then a warden or the assistant warden. Is
Or
that what?
the chief of classification.
Yes.
No.
I shouldn't say clerk. That's a chief of classification. She would be upset with me for calling.
Well, and I don't know if this was true for y'all, but it always felt true for us at Mountain View. It felt like the chief of classification was more feared and more revered and got she's the queen here, not the warden. Who cares about the warden? If you piss that chief of classification off, you're done for.
Yeah. You're living in the worst beds. You're going to be housed in the worst dorm, furthest from everything, next to the toilets.
Yep.
in the house that leaked when it rained, like you were getting all of that. She was in charge of housing and jobs. If you wanted a job change, it would go through her. You know, if for example, I'm working in the fields and I'm so brainwashed thinking that I want to work for these folks that they pull me to the kitchen and I go to my boss, please pull me back. He has to go through classification to do that. He doesn't go to the warden. He goes through classification. And Eric, who also did time in men's Texas prisons, he said he's never seen that, but they do ask sex offenders that because they can, people that have been charged with sex crimes, that they can refer them to civil commitment housing, which is maybe some kind of protective housing for people with those charges.
Well, civil commitment is, for anybody that doesn't know this, which should terrify people. It terrifies me that if you have certain sex offenses that you're convicted of, let's say you get 20 years for it, Marci.
Mm-hmm.
You do your 20 years flat. It's done. Over. Well, there is a board that can say, well, we still think that you're not fit to be among others. So they vote and they civil commit you to a facility that you can come and go and work and do stuff, but it's still prison. They call it civil commitment. And so essentially it's someone who has finished their sentence, discharged it, but you're still not free. And people are, when this happened, when this passed years ago, people were like, oh, well, it's people who commit sex offense. I'm like, let me tell you something. If people get used to this kind of idea, they'll get used to it for people that have done other charges eventually. I promise you, right? If we get numb to this. Now, there's not many people that get civil confinement, but it scares me to think that I could finish whatever the offense is, I could finish it. What are we in Minority Report now, where now you're just assuming and thinking I might do something later on? It's pretty frightening, but that's what civil commitment is.
And so if I have a mental breakdown and completely lose my shit in prison, they can just be like, eh. I mean, that could have been me.
I mean, but of course, right now it is just certain sex offenses. But I mean, what if it was any offense?
Right.
We just decide, oh, you've discharged your sentence, and we just think that you're still a threat, so we're going to put you in prison over here and call it something else.
Wow.
Now, I was asked during my and maybe it was, no, I didn't really look this way. I had long hair. I was 18. And I went through reception.
Mm-hmm.
Marci, I didn't. Now, my second incarceration, I went through Plain State and that whole jam. But this was some old school, went through reception. And they would bring buses, chain buses from Dallas County and Harris County. And I got dropped off by myself. And I remember they made me get up on this exam table that was by the visitation room to search me for body lice. Like hands-on, Marci.
What?
Yes, I'm not kidding you. Looking with gloves and a light in my areas for lice, and then ask me, are you homosexual or heterosexual? And I was scared. I was scared to answer that. I mean, if you look through my case paperwork, you would see there was, this offense happened with me fighting with an ex-girlfriend. So I felt like I couldn't lie about it, but I may have said heterosexual. So I was terrified, and they wrote it down. I don't remember that happening at Plain State though.
Can you please tell me how this table back to the body lice?
Let's not,
because you do what we do. You just drop a bomb like that and then just keep talking like that's not a showstopper.
I guess.
Are you in a room by yourself? Is it open? Is it a medical staff? Is it an officer? Are there male cousins? I want to know.
I'm gonna okay now because I was just telling Lori earlier about I have perfect memory. Like I know some people that go through trauma like have chunks of things missing. I remember all the way from 2 years old on every single thing that has ever happened to me. And if Mandy's watching, she's gonna be like, "Girl, don't tell me you don't remember saying something then." But I remember getting dropped off there, doing the fingerprint thing. I was by myself. There wasn't a chain there. And so in reception, when you walk in that door, it's the counter, and then there is a non-contact visit. Like this is where the public would be when they come in, right, to visit. And so you sit in there, and the front door is locked, right? And then they take you. I guess it was the strip room next to visitation, right? And in there was now this was a long time ago, y'all, but there was a table, like a medical table, like stirrups and everything else, right? And so take your clothes off. And it was a male medical staff member. I don't recall anybody else being in there but him. And I was scared. I was 18 years old. And he's laying there digging through my body with these gloves looking for lice, like almost obsessively. And he didn't like do anything to me other than just be weird and dig around in my hair and my pit and everywhere else, every crack I had. It's like he was like obsessed, like he had like an obsession about bugs. It was really, and that was also going through that. We got classified to a cell block, which was disgusting, like from like the prison movie cell block runs, Marci. They're disgusting. And then the next day was all those medical procedures. Guess what? I had never had a pap smear before. Never. And they told me I had to, or I was going to get in trouble. And this lady was so mean to me. So I almost fainted. It hurt so bad because they used the one size fits all. I'm not trying to be graphic here, but this was my reception experience. It was horrifying. I got a tetanus shot and another shot that I didn't know what it was. And I was sick for 3 days. It made me scared to get tetanus shots because it was just terrible. It was terrible. And it was at reception. It was horrible.
When you're incarcerated, there's already a natural inclination to be timid, to speak up. I mean, it took me a little bit. I wasn't just in there the day one, stirring up the hornet's nest, right? But I just, you could have refused those because that is still your right. But they took advantage of you feeling vulnerable, being your first experience. You're young and it's your first experience in that situation. And they took advantage.
And I was crying. I was laying there crying. And there was a nurse and the person that was doing the pap smear. And it was a woman. They were both women. And she told me to stop, that I was being over dramatic. And like, oh my God, it was so horrible. It was so horrible. It made me afraid to get pap smears in the future. And I would dread it all, because you remember it used to be once a year. And for a long time, I never knew that I could refuse them. But then when I learned that I could, I was like, well, I'm a health educator now, and I know that I need to. And I would just work myself up into so much anxiety every time that time of year came around. One of the most vulnerable places for us to be, I think sometimes, medical procedures, pap smears for certain, were always, yeah, it was terrible. Now, Plain State, I don't really remember much of Plain State because I was so depressed. Mandy, I see that she said that they did ask us our sexual orientation and our religious belief. So now I do remember at Plain State, you go through medical stuff, but you're going through sociology. Tell people what that part is.
Yeah, I mean, you do this full makeup, like you go in and you're initially housed with everybody that's just arriving. You're not in the regular general population. You can't move around. You're locked down, confined to your bed area unless you're showering or in the bathroom, or you're out doing your intake stuff. And those intake stuff, it was uh, psychological exams, uh, like you said, all the medical stuff. Um, they checked your body for tattoos, which that was really weird the way that was handled. It wasn't by medical staff, that was by officers, um, correction staff. And it was just like I walk into this room that's got like 3 desks, and uh, they're like, "Show me your tattoos, show me your scars." And I'm in a gown. At this point, I haven't been issued panties or bras, so I'm in a state issued gown that you are pretty vulnerable in anyway. It's not that long. It's big, wide armholes. You feel exposed anyway, especially without bra and panties. And then so if you have to show like this upper waist of your body or something, you know, you have to lift your gown up, just right there, everything out, and they're just recording everything, every mole, scars. Uh, yeah. And I remember like that. Yeah, all of that was just so raw. And then the verbal exams about family medical history, psychological history, all of that's done with people in earshot. It's
Yeah.
not,
You're
it's
just
not,
like in this from one office to the next, and people are sitting. And when I went through reception, when we did that, we were housed at the first time. We were housed at reception doing the medical part, and then they transferred us to terrace and kept us in the cell block there. And there was a little trailer that you went into every day that had the sociologist. But at Plain State, I do remember the big room. It was hard for me to remember stuff at Plain State. I was so depressed coming back to prison. I was really, really depressed. But
it was they had the peer educators come do
yes,
a presentation about not even that accurate information. Like, yes, the accurate information about sexually transmitted diseases and things like that. But I just remember them even still having to teach, don't take anything from anybody. If somebody offers you something, um, there's always a hidden meaning. And I remember like, I smuggled stamps in to the prison. Somebody in county jail told me, she had been down before. She said, "You're not going to have anything for a month. You're not going to have even paper to write home. And the only way to get stuff is with stamps." And
how did you get those stamps past that lady in intake that made us bend back?
My hoo-ha with the flashlight,
Yes,
that lady.
yeah, lady.
I mean, they, those little things that are like in a gumball machine.
Yeah.
Lori said she smuggled hers in the Bible. I was too scared. Someone had told me that that was a way, but I
They
was
took
really
mine
scared.
out of my Bible.
They took yours out of
Yeah.
your Bible, and I put them inside of me.
Boy, you must have tucked that way up
Far as
in
I
there.
could, as far as I could.
How did you got it out?
Yes, it's not still there.
Hey, Postal Service, Marcy's issuing stamps.
And I was glad to have them because I rented somebody's shower shoes so that I could shower with them. I bought paper and pen from somebody so I could write home. You had shampoo. Those things that you don't have your first month. I needed those. Lori pasted pages together in the Bible and that was smart. That was smart. I had a friend that would take perfume samples that came in the magazine. We were allowed to have them, but once you tore them out of the magazine, that's altering them.
Right.
So if you tore them out of the magazine, now it's contraband. And now you can get a case for what you were allowed to have inside the magazine. But I knew somebody that would just keep one big, thick magazine, and she would carefully cut the whole page of the perfume sample in and carefully glue it into the big magazines. So she just had one that had most of her perfume samples in it. This is serious.
You just have to get creative, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So intake in prison, we did testing, like education level testing.
Oh. You tell people what time in the morning are you going to take your IQ test?
I took my IQ test at 4 a.m. coming off a county time where you're sleeping till 3 p.m. Yeah, I don't know. All of that was crazy. Like you would just go, it would be so random.
Now, Marci, I have to tell folks you were talking about UCC. So UCC is the unit classification. Now, when you're going through reception, you're going to have a state classification. And then when you get to the unit, you're going to be classified again, right? So the first time, now I've gone through this horrible experience of reception and terrace when I was a kid, all right? You know, no money on my books, nothing, no deodorant, no nothing. And hey, we weren't wearing those jumpers. We weren't wearing gowns. We were wearing these horrible little dresses, pullover dresses that were V-neck, short sleeve, and they had like these elastic waistband. And then you had your state boots on. Okay, that's what we were wearing. And I was musty. I didn't have no deodorant. Long, stringy, just depressed. My face was, it was just horrible. I was scared, depressed, all that stuff. So anyway, I go through my first UCC and I don't know, I'm shell shocked. And they asked me some questions and the guy, he must, I don't know who he was. He wasn't in a security officer outfit. He said, so what's the worst thing about all this? I see that you're 18. And I was like, I don't, that I'm here. And Marci, he jumps up from the table and starts banging on the table. And he says, no, you've hurt someone. You've hurt someone. You selfish bitch. And I'm like,
What
is happening? I didn't know what any of this stuff meant, right? And so they classify me to Lane Murray, closed custody. I didn't know what any of that meant. No clue. So I go to Lane Murray and they have us in at the end. There was this waiting room. It wasn't in medical though. It was somewhere in the admin building somewhere. I don't remember. I can just kind of see it. And maybe it was in education somewhere up there. But anyway, I go to unit CC. And so I'm sitting there and there was a whole bunch of people in there. It was the warden. It was the superintendent, the principal, several people, unit classification, the chief of classification. And so they're asking me questions, boom, boom, boom. And I'm just sitting there. I mean, everybody that knows me, I don't come across as arrogant or weird. I come across as just this little dopey, confused looking little kid. I was 18, y'all. And I remember there was one, it was the principal. And she was just glaring at me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, is this going to be what happened last time when the man jumped up and started screaming at me? And she said, I see your IQ here. Mm-hmm. I do. 100 and I don't know, it was like 28 or something. You think you're so smart, don't you? I said, I guess. And she was like, yeah, I know you're kind. You think, and so she just starts railing on me. She goes, these women are going to chew you up and use you and abuse you. You think you're so smart. I bet you think you're smarter than everybody else sitting here. And I'm like, I don't think that at all. And so the whoever he was, maybe it was a captain or a major. He's like, well, I see that they classified you to close custody. I didn't know what that meant. And for those of you that don't know what that means, that meant the level of custody before you go to ADSEG. I mean, it's secure, right? And he said, I just don't think that you need to be there. I don't. I'm going to give you a chance in population. And if you mess up one time, I will send you there. And I was like, okay, still no clue, the same way I had no clue when they gave me 20 years in court. I didn't know what that meant. And so, yeah, so there's the story of how both of my UCCs were absolutely a nightmare. And they almost put me in close custody just because of my offense and my age.
Wow.
My life would have been there. It would have been a totally different trajectory if they would have classified me to close custody at 18.
Wow. Yeah, those having your IQ, it's on it's on your hog card, it's on any disciplinary case, it's on, I don't think it's on the roster, but it's easy for staff to see. And when they see it, they also got an IQ test when they started their job. So they know their IQ test, and it rubs them raw. It rubs them raw when they're on the lower end, and then there's incarcerated folks that are on the higher end. It pisses them off. Had lots say things, especially going to disciplinary court, because why is your IQ right there, on a disciplinary case?
Which, working in disability policy, understanding that IQ thresholds are not the measurement of true intelligence. And it's also being administered at 4 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning after not having ate or been awake or been asleep for days at a time, right? Like, and it would get thrown in my face, especially those first few years when I was younger. And I was always like, well, what am I doing? Am I coming across as, and it was just simply my youth, just being young, and my offense, I guess, looking so whatever way they saw it,
Yeah.
Yes, I think you're right, Carly. It is. Well, we see it out here, a group of really intelligent women working together for a cause. Someone had said, I think it was Richard on the Texas Tribune panel with y'all, when you and Amit were talking about the dangers of retaliation. He said, well, the attorneys told me that it's not really a threat of that because everybody knows how bad the heat is. It's not like we're exposing something nobody knows about. And it's like, yeah, no, they still will, especially to a group of women who are daring to be bold, who are smart and confident. It does incite them to a certain type of fury.
Yeah, it's a special kind of angry when women get together and work together, because despite what you may have heard or been told, women do stick together and are capable of sticking together. That's something they threw at us a lot. Being incarcerated is men's sticking together looked like every man in the dorm not going back to their cell at 10 o'clock when it's rack up time, or not going to their bed, just staying in the day room. Like them sticking together, like, no, we're not doing that. We didn't do that because I think we were worried about disciplinary infractions that would keep us from communications with our family, contact visits, but we stuck together in other ways. And like, this is going on and everybody's going to write a grievance, or we're going to go on a food strike, which didn't mean we weren't eating. What it meant is we were turning out for chow 3 meals a day to turn the unit upside down because they weren't prepared to feed us. They didn't have the food to feed everybody every meal. We stuck together in other ways, but yeah, for sure. Eric says that's called jacking the day room. I just know that my brother-in-law would call sometimes, like at 12:30. I'm like, what are you doing? He says, oh, we didn't rack up tonight. What do you mean you didn't rack up? I mean, the laws told us to rack up for count, and we said no. What are they going to do? It's all of us.
Well, what they would do to us.
They would have gassed us. They would have thrown the big can, the M9 can. They would have gassed the whole dorm. Don't you think?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm thinking about the ways that intake process goes. I get asked a lot on social media about how long will it take for them to call or before I hear from them? And that's another thing that happens in the intake process is they record your voice for the automated telephone system because it's like voice checked. You have to say Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Like that's one of the things you have to say that's recorded, and you have to record your entire name. And so that every time you pick up the phone, you have to do a voice check, which doesn't always work. It matters what phone you're on. It matters the background noise. They record your voice in this quiet little room with nothing, and then you're in the dorm with all this background noise.
God, you just unlocked a memory.
Yeah.
Jennifer Toon,
Yeah.
Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Like I had to memorize exactly if this is, and sometimes you would stand there for 15, 20 minutes. It's not going through and you're like, I'm supposed to call at this certain time.
Right. Yeah, it's frustrating. And it wasn't foolproof because I had friends that could do my voice. And they did. And they would get on the phone on my account. Because probably I was in restriction, locked in my cell, and they would call my family to send messages, let my family know I can't call for a week or whatever it was. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about when you get through the process. Now it's at Plain State. Um, those of you who were my age and we were back in the day through reception, all the units were right there, but going through Plain State, now it's time to go to the unit. And so you've got to get on that rickety ass Bluebird bus and make the trip from Dayton all the way to Gatesville. What were you thinking? What were you thinking on that trip?
Well, first of all, I had it. I felt like I was living large at Plain State. I didn't know, first of all, how bad Plain State is, the intake unit is compared to regular units. But I had a job that I had my boss's favor.
Mhm.
I was working in the butcher shop and I could come and go from the dorm. As that job, I can literally tell the officers I'm going to work. So I had a lot of freedom coming and going. I get to be in the cooler in the summer, so I had that protection. I had friends there. I had there was a girl that was my bunkie. She was my play sister and I didn't want to leave her. And they tell me I'm on chain. And when I tell you, I went to work trying to get my boss to stop my chain, I had called, I was supposed to have a family visit that weekend.
Mhm.
And I called and told my girl's dad, don't come. I couldn't use the phone. They turned my phone off because I'm on chain, but I had somebody else call
Mhm.
and he called up there. The warden calls me in and says, how did you know you're on chain? Well, ma'am, they packed me up. Do you not know how this works? She said, how did you know you're on chain? They packed me up. They woke me up out of my sleep last night and packed me up and told me I'm on chain. That's literally how it works. And there, the chain pulls at 5 p.m. So it's not the morning. So you go all day without your stuff. And she said, well, how did you make a phone call? How did your family know you were on chain? I said, I had somebody call my family. I had somebody else's family. They're supposed to be here this weekend. We live 6 hours away, and she was just writing all this information. And she said, how do you know you're going to Lane Murray? I said, well, ma'am, the paper that they packed me up in, they put an LM on top of it. You're set.
Yeah, it's not hard to figure out.
I know what LM means, Lane Murray. And she said, well, you're not supposed to know. Well, maybe you need to come up with a better coding system.
Right. Maybe don't do that right in front of when you're packing up.
They handed me the sheet, my inventory sheet.
Yeah. Here, inventory your own shit too.
Yeah. And they write LM anyway. Yeah. So it was this big thing. And I didn't want to go. I felt like, the intake unit if you don't have a more serious charge, then you're in population.
Yeah.
People with more serious charges don't ever hit population
Right.
at those intake units. And so you're with people that are doing shorter time. And so it's a little more county jail feelish, which is what I had been used to. I was scared. I'm not gonna lie. I was I was real scared. I was real scared. And I get on that bus and you go and then you have to stop halfway and then you were stopping in Goree, which
Oh yeah, at the time, yeah.
yeah, and so you stop and this was my first experience stopping in Goree, which is used to be a women's unit, now's a men's unit, and it's like you get off and you spend the night there. So you get off and it's men standing in the windows of the prison pleasuring themselves,
Right.
watching the women walk off of the bus,
Yeah.
just right there in the window. It was really crazy.
Yeah.
What was so wild about seeing that is at Plain State, at Henley, not so much the real prisons, but at those intake units, when incarcerated men that worked on maintenance issues would come over to the unit, they would put newspaper up in the window. They would lock us down,
Yeah.
like, you're going to get pregnant if you even look at this man type of situation. But then we go to the men's unit and we're eating chow, walking down the hall with men, making remarks, making like
And wait, and the staff yelling. I remember the staff would yell at us,
mm-hmm.
and it was our fault.
Yeah.
I remember I was sitting in the day room. I was tired and I was kind of slumped over my bag, right? Because that second time I'm intaken from Plain State, and like you said, it was kind of in the night, and so we're in the day room, and I'm slumping, and this sergeant comes out, boom, boom, boom on the bars. Hey, you sit up all the way. There are men here. There are men here, and you're laid out like that. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything, right? Like, here it is, me just tired, exhausted, slumped over my bag. And she thought I was being provocative.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, I got a little something following me all the time. This rear end. And I'm on women's units, you tuck your shirt in. On men's units, when women go to men's units, we have to untuck our shirt to cover your body, to offer more body coverage. Anyways, I untuck my shirt and it doesn't go down. It doesn't hide this. This is still there. My waist is much smaller. So my shirt does not go down over my rump. And I'm walking to Chow and she's like, pull your shirt down, pull your shirt down. Like I'm just, this law. And I'm like showing her like it doesn't go down. And finally she's like, pull it down or go back. And I'm like wiggling it. Now it looks like I have this tight mini dress. It looks more provocative. And it enraged her. She was enraged with the way my clothes fit me. I was just literally just living my little life
existing
in my shirt and state issued shirt and pants that y'all gave me. I didn't go to pick them out.
Right. I did not. I wouldn't have picked these out.
That just kind of feeds into that men can't control themselves. So it's the women's responsibility to control how they look or act or walk.
Even when there's literally nothing that we can.
Yeah, even when we're just existing, not trying to get attention. Like we were getting enough negative attention that it made you want to do everything to not get attention in those situations. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. And then going to the big girl prison, I remember they set us all, like they escort us through medical. Everybody sees you, that you walk in a line. Everybody's got their chain bag. So everybody knows you're fresh off the intake bus. You go into the admin building and you're in this cell. It's a holding cell. And all of y'all are lined up and you're waiting to see UCC to get your housing.
That's where I was. That was the room I was in. Marci as a kid.
We were there. I've been in that room with Brittany.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were, they open the door, laundry comes and opens the door and gives you a handful of stuff, and it's like blankets, this horse looking blanket, and brown sheets that are supposed to be white. And then property and supply comes and they give you 2 brown paper bags, and it's got like a roll of tissue, a razor, a roll-on deodorant. That's the only time they're going to give you deodorant.
The only time.
Yeah. So then you see UCC, but the SSI, the janitor for that building, it was her duty to size you up. Like she wanted to know, where were you from? How much time you doing? And she came in, and I don't know who she was giving this information to, but I remember her coming to the door, and she's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And then after we see UCC, she'd be like, "Where are you going? Where are you going?" And
Oh yeah, what dorm you going to? What dorm
Yeah.
you going to?
yeah,
Hey, you were from what county? Do you know Pookie?
yeah, yeah.
What job they give you? Where are you working at?
Toonch, we're at our hour. I
Oh,
don't
the
know how that
time
went so
flies.
fast. Yeah. I
Well,
don't
it
know.
was good. It was several memories unlocked. Hadn't thought
Yeah.
about that man looking for bugs on me in a long time.
That's crazy. Now they threw delousing powder all over me, but I didn't get the inspection.
The actual hands-on.
Yeah.
I can still feel his little latex
So weird.
in my hair and in my everywhere. It was, yeah. It was,
Oh my gosh. Y'all, thank y'all for spending Wednesday evening with us. We appreciate y'all so much. This is our favorite community for sure. Thanks for liking the live. And no, ma'am, we're not singing. Thank you for liking the live, sharing the live, and all of those good things. And thank you for leaving us a review if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music or any of your other podcast platforms. Tooch has her microphone like she's going to sing. I have got to do the closeout.
It's
Out with us on